Hello, everybody. I'm here with Paula Wojtkowski, and we're going to go ahead and start the interview. Paula, can you tell me a little bit about yourself?
Okay. My name is Paula Wojtkowski, and I am the Regional Vice President of Talent Acquisition and Development for the two Harris Cherokee casinos in Cherokee, North Carolina and Murphy, North Carolina. I've been with the casino about 18 years in a variety of roles, so I'm happy to be doing this interview with Miss Ashley Martin today.
And you are also accepting a new position in January, correct?
That's correct. After 18 years with the casino, I'll be leaving January 1st of 18 is my last day here, and I'll be transitioning. I accepted a political appointment as the Secretary of Commerce for the Eastern Band of Cherokee Indians. So that's my next stop on my journey.
Okay, so have you ever started any businesses?
Yes, actually, I have. I have an umbrella corporation, LLC, called Green Native, and it has four components under it. The first is native art sales, because it's always been a passion of mine. I come from a very uh, artistic family. We're potters. We actually have pottery. It's big meat pottery. I don't know if you're familiar with that, but we actually have pottery in both the Smithsonian as well as the White House. In addition, I have rental units, property management rental units under this, and as well as a native-based food truck operation, and also consulting. So, speaking engagement, leadership development, things that I have experience with in my career.
Okay, so can you give me some examples of your consulting that you do?
Yes. I've been asked to speak at several forums, lucky, blessed, whatever, honored to speak. National uh, Indian Gaming Association had me come and speak with a women's group on the Lean In movement. You're probably familiar with that. Also, I was asked to speak on leadership development in Indian country at the largest gaming show in the country, which is Global Gaming in Las Vegas. It's an annual event. And recently had the opportunity to do a WebEx for Native American Heritage Day for Boeing in South Carolina. So those kinds of things.
Okay, we'll come back to your leadership programs because I want to talk more about that. But let's talk about your role now. So, when problems arise, how does your management team resolve them?
We have a very strong management team, senior management team here at Harris Cherokee. Most of us have been, working at the casino for at least 10 to 15 years, if not longer. Um, in gaming in general, there's a lot of movement and a lot of mobility as people transfer from property to property or market to market in order to advance. But because most of our senior management team are members of the Eastern Band, we've all been here a very long time. So we've developed a lot of competencies in our various areas. Just like any other team, sometimes we're going to argue, sometimes very strongly on certain topics. But at the end of the day, we have goals, and they are overarching goals, and those are that we generate year-over-year growth in the tribal distribution number, and our tribe depends on that revenue stream in order to run its operations. So we're very aligned on the goals that we're measured on, which is tribal distribution, employee engagement, as well as total service scores, which is our customer feedback scores. So when it comes, despite our differing challenges sometimes in our personality types, we have always managed to come together as a team when push comes to shove and accomplish the goals that are set before us. So.
How have the experiences that you have had during your entire career influenced the way that you will run your Green Native company?
I think, just like a lot of people, when I first came into this business, I had worked in government or for smaller companies. I had never worked for a large corporation before. It was it was a steep learning curve for me personally. Um, I think some of the things that I've learned that will help me in moving forward is, everything should be a data-driven decision. Um, I think it's really important. I think it's really important sometimes to follow your gut, but also have good data whenever possible. But taking a logical approach to the way you manage your business, the decisions that you make, everything from your marketing to your products to your target customer, making sure that you have good analytics to back up your decisions so that you're not spending a whole lot of time, effort, and money on products or services that there's no market for.
When someone joins your company, how do you orient them as a member of your team?
Well, if you're speaking about the casino, we have a very formal process, right? Formal onboarding process, and we have a very top-notch team that spends a week with these individuals getting them acclimated, because it is a tough environment. The casino is a tough environment. If you've never worked in gaming before, it's very highly regulated. And we have a lot of code of conduct. And in addition to regulations on the money and the assets, we also have a very strict code of conduct policy that we expect you to be a professional in the work environment and not to, bring your personal problems to work, and show up on time and work the days that you're scheduled to work. And because we're 24/7, it's very important that that people understand that. It's also one of the toughest transitions for folks who've never worked in the business before. But I think one of the unwritten rules that maybe we don't talk about it, maybe we should talk about it a little bit more, is being receptive to feedback, because 99.9% of the time, if somebody is giving you feedback, you need to see it for the gift that it is, even if it's hard for you to hear, even if you may disagree with it at the time that it's given, because it's not personal. It's to help you grow as a professional. And I've been very lucky in my career that I've gotten some pretty tough feedback from time to time that's really helped me improve, and especially managing my expectations of, for example, my boss is my boss, and I like him a lot, but he's my boss, and I don't view him as a friend that is going to cut me slack or go easy on me. I view him as my commander-in-chief who expects me to deliver on the metrics that I'm measured on. And that's not to say that he doesn't do friendly things, that he isn't good and kind, but at the end of the day, he expects results. And I think moving forward, again, part of wanting to form the company Green Native that I formed a few years ago is I think when people do form their own companies, it's because they have a vision of the kind of life they want for themselves, their families, and ultimately for their employees. And for me, because these businesses are so divergent from something like gaming, it will be a much more casual environment. But at the end of the day, I will expect results. I expect people to show up on time when they're scheduled and give it 110%, and and be professional, and while having fun, right? Because you gotta have fun. You gotta work, but you should be having fun. So yeah, I think a lot of that will transition over, but especially making sure that whatever goals we hit for ourselves, we achieve.
Okay. So how do you motivate and reward people?
Well, I think it's really important. The first thing you need to do is you need to get to know your people a little bit. What motivates them, and what's their intrinsic motivation? Is it family? Is it faith? Is it money? You need to know what motivates your people, and I think it's really important too to understand that regardless of what somebody's being paid, if they're not happy at work, if they don't feel valued, if they don't feel like they have a sense of purpose, they're probably going to leave you. Because it doesn't matter how much money you make, without a sense of purpose, it's not enough. And without the engagement factor, it's not enough.
So how do you select people to join your company?
This company, or?
Well, both. I would like to know from a casino perspective and from a Green Native perspective.
From the casino perspective, we do a lot of things. We have a website. We have some pre-employment videos that people can take a look at for some of our positions, just to kind of see like what's a day in the life of a housekeeper. What does that kind of look like, or a beverage server, or some other things. One of the weird things about working in a casino is that we don't always call positions what they're called in the outside world. For example, EVS, environmental services, right? People don't understand that in a governmental or other sectors, business sectors, you might call that janitorial, right? And so people don't understand what they're applying for sometimes. So there's a combination of trying to get people the information that they need to make the best selection for the job description that fits them, but also the recruiters are tasked with getting to know the individuals just a little bit. And that's a difficult thing to do because you're talking to tens and tens of people a day, right? But trying to glean from those interactions what really motivates that person, what they're going to be happy doing. Because we can steer somebody towards a position, for example, the difference between a front of house and back of house position or a customer contact. You can steer somebody towards a front of house position, but if they really don't want to deal with customers, they're not going to be successful. It's better to go ahead and try to steer them towards a back of the house or non-customer contact position. So you take those kinds of learnings, and you have to be flexible. People are going to sometimes apply for a job because of the title or the pay. Then they're going to get into their training and realize that it is not a good fit. And you have to be flexible in allowing people to make a change. With an organization our size, for a very long time, we were very strict about you've got to do 90 days in a given position before you can transfer. Well, we changed that a couple of years ago because we don't want to lose people. This is a tight labor market. So it's really about helping them find what works best for them and their families and their particular situation. What are their needs, wants, and desires? But it all goes back to trying to get to know the person just a little bit, so that you can help guide them, because especially when they're new to the industry, it's pretty overwhelming. It's a 24/7 business. It's highly regulated, and there are 2,800 people here. So it can be overwhelming.
And what about Green Native?
Well, I think Green Native is going to be a much smaller proposition. So, I hope that my goal is to have people who are equally passionate about the things that I'm passionate about, that the company is founded on, right? Making sure that there is a global outlet for some of the local artisans, making sure that people understand the difference between true native art and knockoff native art, having a passion to make sure that whenever possible you eliminate the middle person so that the artist benefits more from the cost of sales, right? Same thing, affordable real estate, that's high quality. In addition, with Green Native, the food truck business plan, it's all about farm to table with organic dishes that are traditional. It's more like native fusion, indigenous fusion foods. So going back to some traditional cooking methods and traditional foods, but they're sort of updated with so that they're very healthy, right? And introducing that to a broader audience.
So, how do you keep up with with best practices in the casino industry?
We're very lucky to be a part of the Caesars organization. So we have folks at corporate that sponsor us, and as part of our management agreement, we have a lot of resources. It gets a lot more difficult when you're out on your own. You end up doing a whole lot of research on your own. It's very important to learn networking. That's another key takeaway from what you can do as far as furthering your own career. Is you never know. Build good, solid relationships that are based on respect. Be the person first, right? That you want to be that person that people respect, and you follow through. You meet your commitments. You mean what you say, and you say what you mean, right? And then create a huge network of individuals, because you never know in the future when you're going to need to reach out and ask somebody a question or leverage a relationship to move your business forward. And it's huge. Networking is incredibly important.
Okay, so now I'd like to spend a couple minutes talking about your profession and like what your specialty is. So could you describe a typical day in the life of Paula?
We were just talking about this. A typical day for someone in a position that's a vice president, you have a series of weekly meetings that you must attend, I wish we didn't spend so much time in meetings, but the truth of the matter is you have a line of people waiting at your door from the time you get in the morning until you leave at night. And it could be, it's whatever the fire of the day is, right? Because there's always a crisis, especially in a business this big. And crisis is relative, but to the person who's experiencing a challenge, it's the most important thing going on. And you need to treat it like that whenever possible. Um, but, typically my day begins around 3 a.m. I just don't sleep like normal people anymore. So I work about 2, 3, 4 hours at home before I come in, and then I have standard meetings, but I also get requests for meetings throughout the day. I really try hard to have an open door policy so that if someone is experiencing that sort of a crisis, that they have an avenue. And sometimes it's not. I mean, you would think that it would just be your line level employees, but it's not. It's other leaders. At my level, I spend a lot of time with other leaders because, as with any organization this large, you're going to have a lot of bureaucracy, and sometimes understanding how to navigate that in order to reach your end goal is important. So I do a lot of that as well.
So, how did you first enter your line of work?
Well, I'm one of those individuals that I didn't have a plan, right? I've never had a plan turn out exactly the way I intended it to, as far as career goals. So I've been very lucky in my career. Had a lot of great help and assistance and mentors over the years. I came into this business almost 18 years ago, and I was the special events, entertainment, and promotions manager. And then I left that and became what we call the tribal representative, which is a liaison between tribal government and the board of advisors or the board of directors over the casino. I did that for 4 years. Came back into the enterprise as the director of customer service. Did that for almost 4 years. Then launched Lean, or Lean in a service environment. It was during the economic downturn, it was very important that we lean up our enterprise and try to create efficiencies wherever possible. Then I went on the board of directors itself for 3.5 years and was responsible for strategy and long-term vision and goal for the casino. I came back into the enterprise in the role that I'm in today. So none of this was planned. For me, it's always been about what next opportunity is very exciting for me. Where do I think I can contribute? Where do I think I can help? And oftentimes, I'm the type of employee that gets recruited to come in and fix problems. Like if there's a major breakdown or a problem occurring with a team or with a division or a department, there are people like me that they call in to fix it. We don't stay, right? Because we're not very good at the long-term maintenance of things. We're great with fixing problems, bringing in coalitions to generate new ideas to improve processes and departments and things like that. But, folks like me, we get bored after a few years of doing the same thing. We're not very good at the maintenance end of things. So hence my transition out of the casino back to the tribe, because this other opportunity presented itself, and it's very exciting to me to be a part of the economic and community growth in Cherokee.
So, what advice would you give to someone who is considering a career here in one like yours or your position?
Take advantage of every opportunity that comes your way. I mean, seriously, stretch yourself outside your comfort zone. And be willing to make lateral moves in order to move up, because the broader your base of knowledge and experience is, the more marketable you become. Be a producer. And by producer, I mean get the job done. Don't make excuses. I had a former general manager who he was former military, as West Point graduate, and he was basically, he would give you a directive and say no excuses, get it done. And you have to figure out ways to overcome obstacles, resistance to change, making sure that you have the ability to build strong teams, turning them loose. Don't micromanage, right? But also leveraging your relationships and knowing how the larger organization functions so that you know which resources to pull in to accomplish a goal. It's very important that you leverage the right resources and individuals other individuals who are also fixers or producers that you can bring into coalitions that you can accomplish goals together. You need all kinds of people in an organization. You need people who are very fast-paced, kind of fly by the seat of their pants, great idea generators, but you also need the folks who are very resistant to that type of environment, because they're going to be the folks that caution you when your analytics aren't strong, or that can predict when you're moving too fast. So you need a well-rounded team of all personality types to be functional. You need to be able to value all work types, work personality types. So, that makes sense?
Yes, it does. So, what kind of formal education and additional specialized training would you recommend that a person should acquire to enter into a profession like yours?
Well, I'm kind of an anomaly in that regard. I didn't get my bachelor's until I was 45, and I got my master's when I was 47. So it can be done the hard way. I don't recommend the hard way because they call it that for a reason. I mean, you end up having to take every really difficult job that nobody else wants because that's all you're qualified for. When it's really unnecessary if you just take the time and expend the energy to go ahead and get the formal education that you need. But the formal education alone is not going to be enough. You've got to have that experience that goes with it, because one without the other just is not enough. It's kind of two halves to a whole, two pieces to a puzzle. So, and it doesn't matter. I mean, it's never too late to go back to school. Clearly, I'm a walking, talking testament to that. So I encourage people to go back to school all the time. I may not be finished yet. No, I don't know.
I think continuing education is important for everybody.
I think it is. And it doesn't matter. I mean,
always.
If you know that the career that you want to go into has a minimum of a bachelor's degree, get a bachelor's degree. If you know it has a minimum of a bachelor's and certain certifications, get those certifications. Don't waste any time or mental energy feeling resentful that you can't apply for something because you don't meet the minimums. Do what you need to do to get the opportunity that you want. Take ownership of that.
So leadership is something that is important to me. I studied it in my undergrad, so I just really like the component of being in a business or owning a business and the leadership quality that you need in order to be successful. And I know you do too, because I know you create leadership programs. So can you tell me a little bit about the leadership programs that you create?
There's a couple of different things that we've been able to do here at Harris Cherokee, and very lucky to have the resources and support from the general manager and the board of directors. And one of the programs is the Cherokee Development Program, which is a program that targets high potential tribal members and prepares them for leadership roles in the casino. The biggest or the most important component of leadership is other people have to be willing to follow you. You can't be a leader if nobody will follow you. So trying to get people to understand that being a leader, it's giving up a lot. There's a lot of it. Sometimes people want to apply for promotions because of the pay or the perceived power. And if that's the reason you're doing it, then you're doing it for the wrong reasons. You've got to want to lead other people and watch them succeed. You're going to have to make tough choices sometimes, and you're going to have to be the bad guy sometimes. That's part of being a leader too. But for the most part, you really have to have a passion for helping other people achieve their goals, right? And as a team, achieving the property or divisional goals or whatever it is. So I think it's important that you know yourself, know what your strengths and weaknesses are. You'll see a lot of books and you'll hear a lot of people talk about, trying to shore up or mitigate your weaknesses. I take the opposite approach to that, because you can work for years to shore up your weaknesses and they're never going to be as strong as your strengths. So I say play to your strengths. Surround yourself with people that complement you so that your weaknesses are mitigated, but play to your strengths. What are you good at? What drives you? What motivates you? What are you really good at? Are you great at analytics? Are you great at the big ideas? Are you great at, putting together plans? What's your strength? Play to that. But as far as formalized programs go, like the Cherokee Development Program, make sure you have a robust um, interview process that's very fair, very metric and matrix driven, so that at the end of the day, it comes down to people getting in based on the scores that they have, not whether or not somebody is your friend or your relative or something like that. Establish minimum requirements. People need to know what minimum requirements are to get in, whether that's a bachelor's degree or not, whatever that is. Give them the kind of training they need, expose them to, for example, in Cherokee Development Program, we have Casino Management 101. And whether you've been in the business and worked in the business or you're brand new to the business coming in, you still need to know the history of the business that you're in. You need to understand the complexities of the business, because I often say that gaming is not rocket science, but it is a complex business and it has a complex history. And understanding the environment in which you operate. I think it's also very important, as a part of knowing yourself and playing to your strengths, is when you know yourself, you have the ability to take feedback, take and receive feedback, and see it for what it is, which is, it's there to help you. It's not a judgment of who you are as a person, but sometimes you're going to get feedback that's going to be tough, and for some folks, sort of disarming them initially so that they are ripe to receive feedback, or that they're ready to receive feedback. We have a component called Making Sense of Chaos that we instituted in the Cherokee Development Program that's been working very well. That might not work for all programs, but it definitely has worked for the Cherokee Development Program. In addition, you're going to want to do some assessments, Myers-Briggs, DISC, those kinds of things, to help you find your strengths as an individual, and sort of help guide you to the careers that are going to play to your strengths, right? And then there's no substitution for on-the-job training. You've got to be able to go spend time behind the scenes in a department with the people that run it every single day, so that you see not just the good, but also the challenges that department faces, so that you can make a decision, an informed decision of whether or not you want to be a beverage manager, for example, or a beverage supervisor, or if you want to be in the hotel. Each department has its own unique challenges. There's no such thing as a perfect job. If it were perfect, they would not pay us. You're always going to have parts of it that you don't like.
What qualities do you think a leader needs to have in order to successfully lead a team?
You kind of have to have a vision. I say kind of, but that's not true. You have to have a vision of where you want to go. You have to be able to excite your team about that vision. Here's how we can achieve this, and here's how we can do it together. I think that you have to accept the people that are on your team the way they are, because in your work environment, you're going to run into people and you'll have some on your team, even if it's a team you select yourself. You may not get along all the time. You may not have, you would rarely have the exact same preferences for anything, whether it's clothes or food or the way you would handle a situation. But it's those differences that make the teams really functional and successful. It's, if we were all the same, then we would miss all kinds of perspectives of how to solve a problem. So, creating an environment where it's okay to make a mistake. It's okay to make a mistake as long as we're learning from it and moving forward. Creating an environment where people want to try to do things differently. They want to try to improve a process or a class or a relationship, whatever it is, so that they don't feel so hemmed in by rules and regulations or your leadership style that they're afraid to do anything that's outside of what's approved. You want that. And you want a team that has permission and feels comfortable in challenging you as an individual, because you're going to be wrong sometimes. Every leader is wrong sometimes, and you've got to set it up so that your team, in a respectful way, of course, can come up and say, I completely disagree with what you're doing here. And you got to, as a leader, you got to be able to take that. There again, going back to feedback,
Do you think emotional intelligence plays an important role in being a leader?
I think emotional intelligence is 10 times more important than IQ. You see people with a high IQ fail every day. And it's because they can't navigate the complexities of relationships. Um, you know, EQ is critical to success as a leader. And you know what? You're not going to be perfect. Nobody is. God knows I'm not. You're going to make mistakes. And you just have to be able to say, wow, yeah, I really made a mistake there. I'm sorry, guys. Let's try something else.
Okay, one last question. Do you have any advice for any of my classmates that are pursuing to be an entrepreneur or currently an entrepreneur?
Advice. I think it's really important that you never give up. You're going to face a lot of challenges. You're going to face people that say you can't do that. You're going to have naysayers. Some of them will be your friends. Some of them will be your family members. One of the difficult things about progressing in a career, and I didn't know this, you don't until you're there, is that sometimes not everyone is happy for you when you get promoted or that you perform well. You're going to lose friends. You may have family members that, for whatever reason, and it's due to their own issues, right? But they're not going to be happy for your success. Be successful anyway. There are going to be people that try to tear you down. Keep working anyway. I'm big on following your passion, and I don't mean following your passion. You hear that a lot, but if you enjoy working with other people, follow a passion that allows you to work with other people. If you enjoy crunching numbers all day long, follow a passion and find a career or a job or start a company that allows you to do that. You just have to really decide what it is that you want and go for it. And most importantly, you have to be relentless. You can't let anybody stop you. You can't let anybody tell you it can't be done. You have no idea how many times in my career somebody said, you can't do that. And I just thought, watch me. So that's it. Don't give up. Be relentless.
I love that. All right. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you, guys.